You know, the most dangerous monsters in our society, they don't actually lurk in the shadows. And they definitely don't wear masks. No, they wear tailored suits, they carry briefcases, and, well, they might just be sitting right next to you in the boardroom. In this explainer, we're going to peer into the absolute darkest, most hidden corners of human personality.
So let's dive right into this chilling reality. We usually think of predators as, criminals locked away in prisons, but the research actually points to a completely different hunting ground for a very specific type of predator, the corporate psychopath. To really understand how they operate, we've got to pull back the curtain on the psychology driving them and look what researchers call the Dark Triad.
So what is it? The Dark Triad is basically a trio of malevolent personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. And while they each have their own unique flavors, they all share this chillingly callous core. We're talking about individuals who prioritize their own self-interest, their own personal utility, above absolutely all morality. They operate with this manipulative, interpersonal style that just leaves a massive wake of destruction behind them.
Let's break down these foundational pillars real quick. First up, narcissism. This brings the grandiosity, the egotism, basically a profound sense of superiority. Then, you've got Machiavellianism, which is all about calculated manipulation and deceit. They literally view people purely as chess pieces. Psychopathy brings the antisocial impulsivity, extreme callousness, and just a total lack of remorse. But recently, researchers expanded this into what they called the Dark Triad, adding a fourth pillar: everyday sadism. This is the horrifying reality that some individuals inherently derive deep, intrinsic pleasure from inflicting daily psychological pain and humiliation on others.
Now, the really crucial point here is that researchers haven't just identified these as totally separate traits, they've discovered what they call the D factor, or the dark core. Think of this as a single, shared, underlying tendency of just sheer disagreeableness. It's a predatory instinct binding all these dark traits together. At their very core, these individuals are hardwired to maximize their own desires at the direct intentional expense of literally everyone else around them.
Section 1. Anatomy of the social brain, the void within. To truly grasp what we're dealing with, we have to shift from behavioral psychology into the realm of biological horror. Let's look under the hood at the mutated neurobiology of a dark mind.
The defining feature across the entire Dark Triad is an affective empathy deficit, and this is a deeply unsettling clinical reality. Because of something called reduced peripheral responsiveness, which basically means their physical bodies literally do not react to stress or sadness, these individuals possess a physical deficit that prevents them from actually feeling the emotional pain they inflict on you. It's not just that they don't care. They literally lack the biological hardware to physically resonate with your suffering.
Just look at the highlighted areas in these neuroimaging scans. These are brains of individuals scoring high in Dark Triad traits, and what you're seeing is a literal physical void. The data shows significantly decreased gray matter volume in areas like the medial prefrontal and orbital frontal cortex. Those are the exact structures in the social brain responsible for empathy and emotional regulation. The circuitry itself is physically compromised.
And this illustrates a pretty terrifying paradox. While their affective empathy, the actual emotional feeling of your pain, is decreased or completely broken, their cognitive empathy remains perfectly intact. Cognitive empathy is the logical understanding of others' thoughts and intentions, so they know exactly what you're thinking. They understand perfectly well that they are hurting you. But because they can't feel it, they can calculate, manipulate, and destroy without even the slightest hindrance of guilt.
Moving on to Section 2, Predators in the Workplace, the Corporate Hunting Ground. So, where do individuals with these hyper-manipulative, guilt-free brains thrive the most? Well, they flock to the hierarchical structures of modern corporations, basically turning our workplaces into their own personal hunting grounds.
Let's look at the specific tactics each trait uses to hunt in the office. Those high in psychopathy, they rely on hard, forceful tactics, threats, and overt aggression. Machiavellians, they're the chameleons. They use charm, deceit, and calculated manipulation to maneuver behind the scenes. And narcissists? Well, research shows a really uncanny finding here. They heavily leverage their physical appearance to manipulate how competent you think they are. Actually, one study even found that grandiose narcissists often rely on distinctive, highly groomed eyebrows to signal dominance and attract attention. Wild, right? When these predators actually take charge, the devastation they leave in their wake is monumental. They completely transform functional workplaces into highly toxic environments. Research links the presence of corporate psychopaths to massive spikes in indirect relational aggression. severe workplace bullying, and plummeting job satisfaction. Employees just lose all commitment to the organization. Plus, structurally, these leaders are heavily tied to unethical decision-making and even massive accounting fraud.
Section 3. The Brilliant Monster, the Case of Steve Jobs. To really ground this psychological horror in undeniable corporate reality, we have to look at a real-world, highly polarizing figure.
Take a look at this quote regarding Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Associates noted he could be incredibly unpleasant, rude, arrogant, scheming, and manipulative, which are classic markers of the Dark Triad. Yet, simultaneously, he was unarguably one of the most creative and innovative individuals in modern history.
This presents a massive paradox. Machiavellian scheming, narcissistic self-absorption, and psychopathic callousness can, and absolutely do, coexist with visionary genius. This exposes the uncanny valley effect of our modern corporate society. We frequently forgive, we enable, or we even celebrate monstrous interpersonal traits when they happen to produce revolutionary, profitable results. We end up reifying the leadership style of people who, biologically and psychologically, operate with a very dark core.
Section 4. The Mask of Sanity. The Successful Psychopath. Let's see how all of this builds into one of the absolute most fascinating concepts in modern psychology, the successful psychopath. How exactly do these individuals avoid prison and instead end up conquering the boardroom?
Believe it or not, the difference between a serial criminal and a CEO often comes down to brain function. Look at this stark contrast. The unsuccessful psychopath struggles with high impulsivity, poor behavioral control, and, well, usually ends up incarcerated. But the successful psychopath possesses high cognitive flexibility and superior executive function. In tests, they show unbelievable strategic problem-solving abilities. They have the exact same dark traits, but they have the executive control to channel them adaptively.
And I really want to make this exceptionally clear. Successful does not mean they're cured of their dark core. They definitely don't lack the dark traits. They just possess the cognitive flexibility to wear the mask of sanity flawlessly. They use their emotional coldness and their lack of empathy not to commit violent crimes, but as a strategic, highly adaptive advantage to ruthlessly climb the corporate ladder.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. Now that you know the biology, you know the tactics, and you understand the paradox of these successful corporate predators, how do you survive a predator hiding in plain sight?
Well, the literature tells us that awareness is your best defense. It's about recognizing the charm as manipulation, seeing the bold decision-making as a potential lack of empathy, and understanding the sheer biological void beneath that tailored suit, because the absolute scariest realization we can take away from this explainer isn't just that the Dark Triad exists in textbooks or brain scans. It's the very real possibility that you might be reporting to one right now. Stay observant, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.